joined again today by Mike Ralston, CEO of Blencowe Resources. Thanks for joining me again, Mike.
Thanks, Darren. Nice to chat again, and especially this week with so much news.
Indeed. So, Mike, the main news then, as you just mentioned, you've delivered the DFS for the Orham Cross Graphite project with some outstanding numbers, an NPV of nearly 1.1 billion, an IRR 10 of 96%, and a low capital cost of 160 million. You must be very pleased with this.
Yeah, it's come together quite nicely. We always knew that by bringing in this downstream beneficiation, we would have something of considerable value to put in there. It's obviously increased the capex a little bit more from what we gave in the PFS, but the results are speak for themselves. It's definitely turbocharged the commercial operation, and it's given us a very, very, very healthy and very exciting NPV, IRR, cash flow, you name it. And by the way, this is just from the first 15 years life of mine, and yet we both know that this is going to go on for a lot longer than that.
Yeah. I mean, within my investor hat on, I've been in the market sort of 10 plus years. I've got to say it's one of the best DFSs that I've seen when you look at all the economics. And I mean, a 96% IRR, I'm not sure I've seen that before. I'm guessing that's a function of the low capex relative to the sort of cash flow generation over the life of the mine.
Definitely. I mean, that's the mathematics of it, but
Mm.
absolutely, the reality is, as we've been saying, you and I, a lot of times over various interviews, we've got a relatively low capital cost. We're lucky enough to have key infrastructure near to site or already at site, so that capex stays, reasonably low. Yet at the same time, we've got an operation that's really churning out some significant profit and cash flows, which obviously gives that return on capital and makes it so exciting.
Mm. Yeah. Well, can we talk about what differentiates Blencowe then, and Orham Cross from peers? You've made it clear a number of times that mining graphite and producing concentrate on its own wasn't really going to cut the mustard, so to speak, and would probably have made it fairly difficult to attain finance. So, can you tell us about the differentiation and the value adds such as micronisation and establishing an in-country SPG facility?
Yeah, so when we did the PFS, we only were going to process through to concentrates, both for all of the graphite that we produced at Orham Cross. When we went through this pre-qualification process and understood the concept of taking it one step further to that
Mm,
uncoated, spheronized, purified graphite, USPG, we realized that the prices that these products are selling for are significantly higher, and this is where the real money is being made. And if you start off small with a reasonable sized plant to do that, which is what you'd want to do anyway, because you're building something for the first time,
mm.
and then you grow it as your market grows and as your experience grows, then that can produce some very, very good returns. So that's been the major differentiating factor in terms of TFS to DFS. I mean, there have been a number of other things in terms of energy costs, in terms of lowering the overall working capital and ultimately your operating costs. But the one that really stands out will be the downstream beneficiation that we've brought into play.
Yeah. In terms of the SPG facility, it's obviously a huge contributor to the DFS numbers, as you say, and very innovative thinking. Extending what could just have been a graphite concentrate mining operation to actually going the extra mile, and implementing the SPG facility, which obviously will be good for Uganda as well. But doing that, is that just something any company can do, or do you need the right expertise and partners to do it?
No, I don't think any graphite producer can do it. One of the things you do need is access to abundant, cheap power because it's
Mm,
very energy intensive. So obviously different locations have different energy costs, but energy cost locations would struggle.
Mm.
Um, there's other issues around, if you're going to go down the acid route, you've obviously got to be able to import the necessary acids. We're probably looking to do thermal, and that's why we need the cheap power, because that is very power driven. But it's also about knowledge and how you do it, whether you want to do it with a partner, whether you want to take it on yourself.
Mm.
We've been building relationships for a while now,
Yeah.
both in the east and the west, and we are confident that we can start off with a small plant and build it and take it from there. And obviously, that's what we've incorporated into the DFS. So it's I'm not to say that anyone can't do it. Micronization, for example, other people can micronize. That's really just taking specialist mills and grinding concentrate to further micron sizes, which create these niche products for markets. But it's possible for other people to do that. That's less difficult, and yet at the same time, you've got to do the testing to know that your product can get micronized and it's
Yeah.
it's going to recover and it's going to create the end products that you need, that the market wants. So I wouldn't necessarily say nobody else can do these things, because that's
Mm.
not true. But at the same time, you have to have certain things in your way. Your product has to be able to react in a certain way. As I say, things like your energy costs have to be in sync, and cheap enough and available enough to do it. And yeah, we're just lucky enough to have these things, in play for us, and
Mm.
we obviously take advantage of that.
Yeah, I think I was more talking about producing the uncoated SPG 99.95% sort of battery grade product. I don't think there's many places outside of China that have that
No.
expertise. So I'm guessing that's why you've created those relationships with the Chinese companies.
Yeah, well, we've got a relationship with a big SPG producer for sure, but we've also got a very strong relationship with American Energy Technologies, AET, who do the same thing in a different way. They're with their own IP, and they have a different way of getting the same end result. And we're going to be considering all the options, because
Okay.
we're still in our infancy with regards to which way we go. We've obviously taken a path within the DFS, but we're going to continue to explore this and continue to find the ways and means to reduce the risks associated, to obviously make it better
Mm.
by the time we get along to doing it. So DFSs don't just stop on the day that you announce it to market. The work just continues, and you're just continuing to refine the model, the processing, everything, and obviously trying to make it better and better and better at all times.
Mm, yeah, and the US, obviously, you mentioned a US name there, but they're all over critical mineral at the moment. So I suspect there will be a lot of interest coming from the US, and I think you're going over there. Is it next week?
Yeah, I'm going to
Yeah.
spend the week there next week in both New York and Washington, D.C. I agree with you. I think there's huge momentum over there, and a lot of interest in critical minerals, and obviously graphite is on that critical minerals list. And we have a lot of we have something to talk about now that we've got the DFS out there, and at the same time, it's the right time to be there talking to these different parties. So let's see what comes of that. But we definitely want to try and get the attention of some of these big funds,
Mm,
because they make our funding solution. Yeah, they can all contribute for sure, and it's just a question of us being able to convince them that we've got something that they want and that they need. And that's what the trip is all about, to just get us in front of them, make them aware of who we are. Obviously, DFC know who we are because we've been working with them for a while, but
yes.
all of the other players. And yeah, I'm confident that we'll get well received. And then from there, we've just got to try to manage that through to a funding solution that works for them and works for us.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, so on your presentation, you've updated that and you've got a fairly detailed explanation of the phasing of the project, but perhaps you could just give listeners a quick overview, high-level overview of how you're going to be phasing the project, which is presumably to sort of stage the capital costs and de-risk the project as you progress.
Yes. Look, from a capital perspective, it would make more sense to just go directly into phase two and be producing 50,000 or 70,000 tons of concentrate from day one. It would be more capital efficient to do that. But it's not just about capital efficiency. It's about having enough off-takers to sell your product into. And that, it's 50 to 70 is a pretty big number from day one. So, from an off-taker's perspective, you'd much rather start with a smaller phase one, which is what we're doing. And, get your off-takers in there, sell product to them, create those relationships, and then those relationships will start to grow. There are an awful lot of off-takers that we've spoken to who like our product, but they're just waiting to see us
Mm.
move into production. And then I think we'll have a big stream of a sort of second wave of off-takers coming on board, mainly because they've all been, promised a lot of production by graphite companies in the past, and they've never made it through to production. So they're a little bit hesitant, but that's okay because we've got enough off-takers who've taken a chance and signed with us that we can cover key one production. So the first phase is we want to move it quickly. So we want to keep the capex low enough to be able to go and raise that money, move through into production quick as we can, be able to show that we're a mining operation, we're producing graphite, we can give that end product to all range of different end users, and they can all see that we're in production. And if we've obviously got the second stage funding solution in play,
Mm.
it's easy for us to show them that we're going to expand and we're going to be able to ramp up and provide more and more product for those that want it beyond that, including ultimately getting the SPG facility up as well. So
Yeah.
it's definitely about de-risking. It's about taking small steps. I mean, you would appreciate, building mines and building facilities is the trickiest part of our game. So we need to make sure we do it properly, and we need to ensure, in particular, that we can deliver the end product to the processing quality that the end users want. So the first phase is really all about getting that done, learning our game, and being able to then grow as the relationships grow, and as our knowledge and experience grows.
Mm. Absolutely. Okay, so yeah, you mentioned the DFS there. It's really the sort of start of a new era. You're entering a phase now, really, which is pre-production. And you've been at the Resourcing Tomorrow conference this week. How's that been? And have you had positive feedback?
Yeah, it's been good. We're a London listed company, so anytime we get the chance to be in London, whether I'm running around talking to people, all around town, or whether we're in a conference in a booth, and people can come see us, or I
Mm.
was doing some presenting so they can hear us. It's fantastic. I love the opportunity to get to speak to people face to face, or even like we're doing now. But it's really good. A couple of our shareholders came to see us, which is great.
Yeah.
So you're getting feedback, obviously, all the time. There's definitely a new level of interest, from a slightly different, more institutional based interest, which is great because I would love to see more of them backing us.
Mm.
And yeah, I just think that you're right. There's a line in the sand. We've sort of crossed it, and we are sort of looking at a pre-production story now. And so, we've got a strategy. We've told people what we're going to do, why we're going to do it. And they'll be following us now. A lot more people than knew us at the beginning of the week. So it's a good conference. It's obviously local, so people can get there from, a lot of our shareholders are obviously based in the UK. So it's really good to see them. And we appreciate their support and enjoy talking to them.
Yeah. Okay, well, you've delivered the DFS. Congratulations. That is a big milestone, and that's the culmination of a good few years worth of work. And obviously, great that the DFC supported you. That grant you got saved, $5 million of dilution. So again, not something we've seen much of on the junior market. So well done with that. What comes next, Mike?
Look, as you know, we've only announced, I think, 39 or 40 of the 332 holes that we drilled in the last couple of months or throughout this year. So there's an enormous amount of drilling results still to come. Both the Beehive and the Eon deposits, which are the two new ones, We haven't put any results out. Neither have we put the results out for the deep holes. There's plenty to come there, and it'll be piecemeal. So we've got a lot of news flow in that regard.
Yep.
And I think it's going to be pretty good. We've seen in the results we've had so far that they've been very consistent, and we're expecting good things to come. So definitely more drilling and hopefully culminating in another JORC resource update at the end of it. I can't say for certain because until I see
Mm.
the results, you'd never know for sure. But I'd hope that we can. And then the next, obviously, phase beyond that, there's constant news flow in terms of off-takers.
Yep.
We've always got people, there's so many different parties looking and feeling and testing and trialing our product that we're going to see more off-takers coming through, which is great because we're just building, it's like building a foundation for a house and it's brick by brick and you're adding more
Mm.
bricks. So
Mm.
we're very happy to see all of them come on board and when 10,000 tons overall becomes 15, becomes 20, and ultimately
Mm.
builds into that, large scale. It's just really reinforcing the whole production strategy and de-risking us. So that's going to happen and then we'll continue. And then, the big one is the funding solution. And that
Yes.
funding solution is obviously something we're going to be working on literally from now onwards. We couldn't go much further than what I have been able to do to now is just engage with people and tell them who we are and what we've got. But until you've got a DFS to show what it means,
Yes.
you can only go so far. So we've got that now. We've got to get out. We've got to explain, the absolute unique world-class nature of this project and what we're going to do with it. We've just got to tell as many different potential funding parties as possible. And then, try to bring a few funding solutions, possible options and alternatives into play.
Mm.
And we'll narrow it down beyond that to, the one that we want to work with and obviously take through to finalizing. And we'll work through that as quickly as we can. To some extent that is dictated by the other side of the fence, the other party and what they can do and when. But
Yep.
there's a lot of interest in critical minerals at the moment, and graphite is really right up there. So we want to take advantage of that and get it done as soon as possible. So that's news flow as well. And then there's, further things that we'll be continuing to add along the way as we sort of move towards first production. There's stuff happening in country. And we've got a lot of infrastructure starting
Mm.
to get built. We've got export processing zone statuses being applied for, things that maybe on the face of it, don't add up to too much, but they're all extremely important. So just keeping on doing what we've done in the past, just communicating and delivering. Those are probably the most important things a junior can do. So we want to keep doing both of those, and hopefully the market will continue to support us. And ultimately, we'll see this move forward to production because that's when the real value starts to show. And we're all obviously waiting to see the market cap of Blencowe catch up what the value of this project really is.
Yeah, yeah. I'm seeing an awful lot of things on social media now about the scramble for critical minerals, whether it be the US, whether it be Europe. There is real urgency now. And I think that personally, 2026 could be the year for junior resource stocks, and especially those like Blencowe that have got a tier one deposit because, getting to a DFS can take years.
Yeah.
You're very well placed in that respect. So, very exciting story. And thanks for joining me today, Mike. You've obviously had a busy week and been running around. And what we'll do is we'll chat again shortly, and perhaps do a live spaces where we can have some Q&A with investors.
I'd love to do that. And I think you're right. I think this next year is a big year for us. And the market is definitely heated up in this particular space. So, when the stars align, you go and take advantage of it as much as you can. And hopefully we'll have some very good news to bring back to the market soon. But thanks for having
Okay,
me, and it's always great to chat.
no problem. Thanks very much, Mike.